Okay, call meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Buddy, I'd like to take now silence, please. Okay, thank you. If y'all make sure you got your phones turned off or either on silent. Start roll call today. Today we start with Commissioner Reed.
Here.
Mr. Culberson.
Here.
Stephen.
Here.
Mike Smith's here. Commissioner.
Here.
Got it before I could get it out. Very good. Okay, public comment. We have a couple. I'll get to Tama. Yes, ma'am. I didn't want to butcher your last name. Please come on up. 5 minutes, and of course, you've been through this before. Tell us where you live. Thank you.
Is this on? Okay. All right. Thank you, because I signed up just when I came in the door. So
That's fine.
letting me. Okay, commissioners, my name is Emma Bruss. I live at 25 Tonkonox. The topic I want to is the High Township Fire Department. This isn't my most polished presentation. Probably going to be the most sincere. That's myself and my husband door knocking 200 doors throughout the township. We played a big role in the petition that is under review right now, the acreage, what we call the acreage petition, to lift High Prairie Township out from under the authority of Fire District 1, which you all govern right now. And we are certainly playing a big role in the current petition underway, what we call the voter petition, the petition for requiring 51% of registered voters in the township to sign on that they want the High Prairie Township Fire Department. So, here's the takeaways. Here's some key takeaways. I could tell a ton of stories, and all of you who have door knocked know these stories. I'm feeling biblical, like we're the Maccabees going door to door or something. So, this is not, I have respect for Lansing. I have respect for what they're doing, what they want to do. That's fine. And this is not an either or. Either we need Lansing or we don't need Lansing. It's a both and. This township is 6 miles by 7 miles. We need the 187th Street Fire Station, which serves a 5-mile radius. There is a piece of the township that is tucked up against Lansing. They're not representative of the entire township by any means. When we knock on the door, here's what happens. Can I help you? It's generally the man of the house coming out to see who's there, because we're cold calling is what we're doing, and it's personal and it's door to door. The answers are, we have about 5 seconds to tell them who we are and what we're doing. All weathers, cold, snow. We personally parked at the end of driveways and trotted up many driveways. When people hear what we're doing, 95% of the time, the answer is, yes, I want to sign this petition. Sometimes it's, what took you so long to get out here? Sometimes it's, I absolutely want to support this, I've been following it. When we hear no, it's always about 5% of the time, it's always based, almost always, on personalities. They don't like somebody on the township board. They don't like somebody connected with the High Prairie Township Fire Station at 187th Street. They don't like a county commissioner or two. They are equal opportunity haters, believe me. So that prevents them from moving forward with what should be an institution of safety, an institution that is going to exceed people. It's going to exceed personnel and staffing and changeover. It's going to exceed all that. There will be other people sitting in county commission seats 10 years hence, probably. That's who we are. You serve for a while, you move. Further, I can go on and on, but I'm trying to be a little concise. we are the model for township fire protection. We are following that model with a station strategically located, a paid chief, volunteers. You look around the township fire departments. That is the model. Geographically, there's only so far a township, a fire department can reach, okay? Right now, contracting with Lansing and saying they're going to get out to the outer reaches of this township, which is 211th Street, 207th Street, 203rd Street. Have you been there? I'm not sure that's realistic. And this push to contract it out, I'm really wondering how far it goes. Are you going to want Sherman Fairmount to contract with Baser? Are you going to push for that? Are you going to push for Tonganoxie to go to KCK? I mean, how far out are you going to push this? We want a township fire department contracted with the nearest municipality. It's getting a little bit strange. The further out we go, and that people really comprehend this, or they really see a copy of the contract, which we carry with us and have given out copies, a copy of the contract that you guys entered into with Lansing for High Prairie Township's fire protection as the object. They see that. I'd be surprised if some of that hasn't come back to your desk. So here's my offer. Any one of you are welcome to come ride with us on these calls, because we have a routine that we follow, and we go out and we get signatures. Come to the station. Come to the High Prairie Township station at 187th Street. See the staff, see staffing, see equipment, see what goes on. But I will say, if you come ride with us, you don't wear your dress going to town clothes. You wear other clothes where you can get your boots pretty muddy. Furthermore, this assignment was given to us, township residents, as a product of the last board meeting, county commission board meeting. If you listen to that meeting, review it, at the end of December. Our only way out was these petitions. Only way out of Fire District 1, the only way forward with our own fire department was these petitions. And at this point, I have had vicious dogs sicked on me and barely made it to the car. It's getting personal. I don't appreciate this. I think there was a blithe assumption that either we wouldn't do it or couldn't do it. So, furthermore, I think people are cottoning on. One of our township petitioners on our team went to a very high-end housing area off of Tonganoxie Road recently, last couple of days. People were flocking out of their houses when she was walking through. Some people turned her down. The vast majority flocked out of her houses, which you will see when this township petition is turned in, to sign it, because their homeowner association has given them the edict, you get behind this petition, because they know the consequences of not having our own township fire department.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. All righty. Got one I don't know if she's going to speak today. Is Kirsten Workman here? Might be for the 12th she wanted to speak. Okay. Okay. Mr. Clamp, come on down, sir.
I want to talk about the 5 airplane accidents. Yeah, that's political. Well, we only killed 68 people in Washington. I can tell you why. It's what I did my whole life in flying. But we got politics involved. You know, the states are conflicting the federal government, and I don't know why we don't conflict the state government. Since I only get 5 minutes, but I haven't been here for 4 meetings, so that means I get an extra 20 minutes, 5 minutes.
Nice
so
try.
I got 25 minutes.
Nice try, Mr. Clamp.
Oh, God. That's really upsetting. You guys have never been representatives of taxpayers on property tax. It was enjoyable. We did it back in the 70s and 80s. We did it in the 90s. There'd be a taxpayer that had written down he wanted to come to a meeting. He'd come give a presentation of what's going wrong with his property tax. You don't do that anymore. So you're missing out on a lot of stuff. So Louis Clemp gets Louis Clemp, 1816 Pine Ridge Drive, Leavenworth, Kansas, 66048. It says, "Dear property owner," and it's asking me for some information so they can come up with an evaluation and some information on 1314 Eisenhower, 778 Cherokee, and there's one here on Marion. I don't go with it. They asked me to come. I'm not going to give them any information because they don't care. They work for the state. They don't work for us. They're working for the state. You need to charge them for that rental over there. When I say they work for the state, you have a hearing with a guy over there, first thing, and then you have a hearing with the guy over there and some lawyer or somebody over in Topeka. They charge you $100 for that one. Yeah, to get on the phone for 5 minutes. Just $100 here. A lot of people can't afford that. And then you want another meeting, then they have 3 big guys over there in Topeka. They don't care. And the guy in Leavenworth, and you have to meet over there. And you go over there and they say, well, Joe, he didn't show up today, so you're only going to have 2 people there. And that's the way the bigger governments tend to operate. So my property, 804 Cherokee, is a man cave. And I've said this before, it's listed as residential. But that isn't how they classify it. It's written on their idiot form, residential. But they tax it because it used to be a car shop. Well, and I said this before, well, it used to be Punk Jenkins. And I said that, and they said, well, what's Punk Jenkins? Well, that's Clarence Jenkins. He's dead now, God bless his heart. And so before that it was residential, and then when the Clemp factory was there, before that it was agricultural. But now they sit there and tell you, well, we're going to stay with this because that's what it was. The last owner didn't go back to the next owner and the next one and the next one. So I think that somehow you guys need to be competitive with the state government because they don't care about taxpayers. Hopefully there'll be some changes in property tax and sales tax and income tax. Just keep our fingers crossed and everybody will benefit.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Mr. Clem.
And Vanessa.
She's in that little box.
And I heard a statement that she thought I didn't. I was upset because she wasn't here at a meeting. Well, everybody's got a reason. Sometimes they can't go to meetings. So,
yep.
Vanessa, thank you for being on the little box.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to administrative business. Mark?
Commissioners, if you recall, we had approved a policy for wellness incentive policy back in October of last year. And one of the things that came up that was not addressed, or something that's come up that wasn't addressed in that policy, was how if it would be available to retirees. And I think even we might have discussed it as we were going through the policy that the incentive is to make sure people who are on our insurance are doing the things that they can to stay healthy, getting their annual checkups, doing the tests that they're supposed to do at certain ages. And I think that it would make sense that that would apply to retirees who are on our health insurance. However, the policy as written does not currently allow for that. So if that's something the board would be interested in amending, I can bring the policy back next week for your approval. Just want to make sure that that's okay with the board.
Yeah, one thing, I don't have a problem. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, is there a cost involved?
Sorry, I didn't turn that microphone on before. The incentive allows for a $50 monthly reduction in the current health insurance premium for the employee if they meet all the criteria to qualify for it. But the intent is that while there may be a cost to that up front, long term it helps us with our health insurance premiums because people are doing more to be healthier. And the proactive approaches what the board had discussed before. And I think there's only, right now, I believe there's only 4 or 5 employees who would even be eligible for it.
I have no problem with that. I think, when you retire, again, the key is on this is a premium. The more usage we get, as we've seen in the past, our premiums are skyrocketing. They're going to go up anyway, but this can only help at least try to slow them down a little bit, so I have no problem with that. Commissioners? Vanessa, you have anything with that?
I support it.
I'll amend the current policy then and have it on next week's agenda for you.
Okay, let's go. You okay with that? Jeff, you okay with that? Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay, this is going to be some more administrative business. Ms. Reed, do you have anything for us?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you feel better. Mr. Culverson.
Yeah, so last night I was notified that there's a hearing tomorrow morning, and so I wanted to run this by you guys. Senate Bill 108 is a revised version of House Bill 79, I think, a couple years ago, where we're asking to convert 1% income tax to property tax. So to relieve property tax, anybody who draws a paycheck in Leavenworth County would pay 1% toward everybody else's property tax, is basically how it would work. So I was going to go testify on behalf of that. I've been working with Senator Haley from Wyandotte County on this. He's the one who presented it a couple years ago. It was a different version then, and so we modified it a little bit. I told him his original bill was only going to apply 50% of the income tax toward property tax. I told him that needs to be 100. And you also need to put in the bill that if a county doesn't use it for relieving property tax, then they don't get it. Because a lot of people, when I ran this by them, said this will just end up being an added tax. We'll get taxed the property tax and the income tax. And I said, I absolutely agree with what you're worried about. So to fix that, we build it in the bill that if it's not used for property tax, you don't get it. So the hearing's in the morning, so I was going to ask you guys.
This is one thing, too, that spreads it out. Instead of having just so many people out in the audience and people watching pay for it. Does this include the people that work on posts?
Exactly, and that's what makes this work so well for Leavenworth County. They pass boilerplate legislation all the time for all 105 counties. This is what they're all going to do. Well, when somebody passed the law saying that the county can only use property tax to pay your bills, we can't use income tax, zero.
Yeah.
Hardly any sales tax, any excise tax, any other tax we don't get. Only property tax.
Right.
When they pass that, it doesn't work for a handful of counties. Leavenworth, Riley, Gary, specifically. Leavenworth County is 50% property tax exempt. That means the other 50% are paying twice as much as they should be paying.
Everybody around, yep.
Leavenworth County is the third highest income tax earner in the state. Hundreds of thousands of people draw a paycheck in Leavenworth County. So if you used income tax, hundreds of thousands of people will be paying that 1%. Only 33,000 people pay property tax. So to pay the county budget, only 33,000 people are paying that bill. This would disperse that among hundreds of thousands of people. So the numbers in itself make more sense.
Well, I may have missed something, Mr. Lewis. I know you brought it up. You've testified, and I really appreciate everybody that's going to testify. But if you look at a normal property tax that we get every year, what kind of reduction would you think you would see? I'm asking you for exact figures.
So for an example, and these aren't exact, I've got Senator Klemp working on with research and to get the exact numbers, because the numbers we ran for House Bill 79 a couple of years ago, they were looking at the entire state. They wanted to use this bill to apply it statewide.
Right.
Problem with that is there's a lot of western counties that have no income.
Yeah.
Leavenworth County is the third highest income tax earner. So we would be subsidizing the counties that don't have much income tax. If you make it specific to the county, which is in this bill, make it voter approved, it'd have to go before a vote. The 33,000 voters would vote whether they want to use a 1% income tax to offset their property tax or not. The average household pays about $3,000 a year in property tax. They pay about $800 a year in income tax. So 1% more would be another $80 income tax to wipe out the $3,000 property tax. So those are the numbers. It's unbelievable to me that we haven't done this already. But when I look at the how things work in Topeka, and they always have to pass legislation statewide, I can see how it happened.
Yeah.
This would fix the problem.
And I think you're absolutely right. But, the last couple of years we brought up made enough noise, and I think finally there's somebody starting to listen with. And I've had a couple meetings with Senator Klimt, just like you have, and I've met with him. Really impressed on the way he's going after this. So if any other county commissioner doesn't have objection, I would ask that Commissioner Culberson go testify on behalf of
I
us.
have a couple questions.
Yeah, Mike.
So what percent? It would be 1%, you said?
We're asking for 1% income tax to be applied directly toward property tax.
And the Board of County Commissioners would submit this to the voters? Or would it be?
It would be a vote, yeah.
Okay, because I haven't read the bill.
Right,
so.
right. This would put it before a vote to the public, so the 33,000 taxpayers would vote on this. And that's the other beauty of this, is the hundreds of thousands of people that would be paying this don't vote. So I don't know why it wouldn't pass a vote, because the 33,000 people only have to gain for passing this.
So you
county
were
by county.
projecting, like you said, the person that had the $3,000 they're paying property taxes. What would how much would come off of their property tax?
So this would just about wipe the county tax completely out.
The county portion.
So right, so about half. So you would cut your property taxes from $3,000 to $1,500 by paying $80 more income tax. I don't know who wouldn't vote for that. As long as they believe that $80 will actually go toward property tax 100%, and the county will do the right thing and actually do this. And so we built that in the bill. If the county doesn't use it 100% to relieve property tax, they don't get to collect it.
So one thing that I'm willing for you to go testify, but I would never support something like this unless there was an additional piece of legislation passed, similar to what they have in Missouri, which is called the Hancock Amendment, where if the local governments exceed the rate of inflation, then it goes to the voters. So that's an additional. It kind of caps if you go above the rate of inflation. You have to seek the voters. So I would. I personally am skeptical about something like this a little, because I'm afraid once you get your foot in the door, then the next thing you know they're going to 2%.
Yeah.
They're going to 3%.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, I get it. And that's why we try to build all that in the bill, where, for instance, if the county doesn't use it 100% to relieve property taxes, they don't even get to collect it. That wasn't in the first bill, House Bill
Can the
7.
voters petition to have it rescinded?
I imagine.
Is that in the bill?
Yeah. I haven't. I just got this last night, so I haven't read it completely through. I can find out.
Well, I mean, I have some caveats about it, so that's.
Well, the only thing I see is that we've all been talking about this for years, and every time we throw something else on top of some kind of law we're trying to do or pass something, it goes away. We've got to get one in place before we can go forward. I don't know how many times we've testified in the last few years about this, and then somebody else, well, if I'll only do it if you add this to it. No, this is about property tax. So I understand your concerns, Mike, but we've got to move forward on something that seems like it works. And I know, like I said before, the city of Leavenworth a while back did something similar to that, and I think they had a vote. And it's a vote of the people. So.
And this is not a new concept. Cities are already doing this.
Oh, I know this.
Cities have the ability to do this already.
And they do.
And they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand, but I don't have any problem with you going at least speaking at that.
And that's what I'll do then.
I don't have any problem with it. This is one of the main things that I campaigned on.
Yes.
Is taking those dollars and turning them into property tax dollars, which would relieve a lot of individuals. My question is that where in the Senate Bill 108 does it stipulate that it's going to be taken care of instead of it being used for some other issue?
It's in there. I'll find it for you later, Willie, and show you. But I did read that part of it this morning, that it says it has to be used for property tax.
That's the thing, to make sure it's going where we say it's going to go.
Yeah, I know in the past it's been my experience that when you think
here it is, Willie. I found it. All the revenue derived from the earnings tax authorized by this act shall be credited in the budget of the county to reduce the amount of revenue otherwise necessary to be derived from the ad valorem property tax.
Is that page 1?
Yeah, page 1.
Line?
It's D.
D. 15.
15.
It says it shall be used
Commissioners, the other
100%
thing,
for property tax.
to Commissioner Stevens' question, there is language in here that requires that it go out for a vote every 5 years, so that if any time the citizens decided they didn't want to support it, it's in the statute right now, it's required that it go out for a vote every 5 years.
Okay.
I know
Keep it in
Jackson
play.
County, Missouri has something. St. Louis also in the Missouri side has something. I think theirs is on a 10-year basis, but that allows for input.
So
So
there's
if
your
the
safety
citizens
valve.
ever decided that
That's
we
the
weren't
safety
using it
valve.
appropriately, they just wouldn't renew.
If it wasn't working, they just don't
Yeah.
keep doing it.
So there's a sunset then.
Yeah, basically.
And like I said, I just got this at 11:30 last night, so I haven't read it all the way through. There's 40 pages.
When are you sleeping today?
There's 40
Just
pages.
kidding.
I fell asleep 3 times trying to get through it. So.
Commissioner Reed, do you have any comments on it?
I support it.
Thank you. We all good?
Okay,
Okay.
I'll show up in the morning.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay. Mike?
Oh, one more thing. There's a Core Civics giving a presentation Saturday.
Yeah.
Is it anybody plan on attending?
I'll be
that?
out of town, but I was just made aware of it.
Okay.
Where's that at?
I just want to make sure 3 of
Is
us
that-
didn't show up.
It's at Core Civic Office, I believe.
I think it's at the
Yeah.
facility.
You know what time?
8 or noon.
Oh,
Noon.
we're not going to be there, are we?
It's noon.
You don't have to worry about it.
So you guys are going to be. So it's
And I'll-
me. Vanessa, did you know about it?
Yes, sir. I'll be out of town.
Okay.
You're it.
All right. I'll be there then. It's at noon, I think.
Take notes.
Saturday.
I wasn't sent an email. It just happened to get back to me. That's the only reason I even know about it. Okay, Mike?
Couple things. First, there was a comment about that we had pushed to get Lansing into the provision for protection of fire services in High Prairie. Just from my perspective, I don't think we've ever pushed that. In fact, we didn't want to. We asked a question of council at the meeting whether if we didn't get provision for that fire protection, whether we could assure that there would be fire protection. And the council's answer was no. So the only way we could do our jobs was to make that contract at that time. We are definitely, I don't speak just for myself, we want to get you your own fire protection in High Prairie Township.
Yep.
And the county is not interested in being any part of it. But as far as the whole issue with Fire District 1, it's our responsibility to make sure that fire protection is provided for. So that's why you have this contract. But no, we're not pushing for those anywhere else in the county, and we weren't pushing for it in this case. So just wanted to put that out there. Also, there's been some social media commentary about economic development and about our economic development director, Tom Cole, statement about the fact that when he was our economic development director, they weren't sure what all he had done. And I just wanted to go over a couple things. When he was our economic development director, and we are still the same issues that we had before Tom Cole came and before we had an economic development office, unfortunately we're still facing those same issues in dealing with economic development. That being said, just for Tonganoxie has the largest economic development with Hill's Pet Nutrition in the history of Leavenworth County. So we have had some progress. But Tom Cole took the lead on multiple grants. The Energy Efficient Conversion Grant, the base grant for sewer project in Lansing 2 times,
Yep.
the broadband grant, the EV charging station grant, consultation with Commerce Department for grants related to 2 bridges where we received funding from the Commerce Department for Golden Road improvements on the 2 bridges. He was our county rep for the Leavenworth County Port Authority. He represented the county on MARC committees. We wanted him to be on the executive board per our policy for LCDC, which we're still in having discussions about that issue. And I think that was one of the problems was we're still having issues of communication and working together on economic development, and we didn't solve that. He worked with several property owners to identify potential for development of their properties within Leavenworth County. He completed the county incentive policy for economic development. He provided a draft of a comprehensive economic development policy. And if I'm going to give fault or find fault in Tom Cole, is I never received that product, that end product. I think we should have received that.
We talked about it.
He worked with GIS to create a utility inventory map for the county. He updated available property on the lowest database. He assisted with marketing of Cushing. He drafted a policy for future benefit districts. And like I said, I noted where I feel like there was failures was the completion of that comprehensive economic development plan and the working together with LCDC and Port Authority for the position on the on the executive board, and there's been very little collaboration and communication with some of our economic development partners, and that's the part on this economic development. We need to have partners. The county needs to be a partner for economic development in the county with all the other entities, and if we're all pulling in different directions, then we're not benefiting the county. But these are some of the comments that have been made on social media about how statements that Mr. Cole did not do anything when he was our economic development director, but he did a lot when he was here, and he's a very talented gentleman. And I thought that we ought to point out to the constituents that those are some of the things that he accomplished. While I don't feel good about where we're at now on economic development, I do feel good about what he did.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
anything else, Mike?
The only other thing is, and I don't know if I should bring this up on our first agenda item, this is the letter from Tommy Noxie asking for.
Why don't we hold on to that, because
okay.
we're probably going to make a motion on do something like that. Anything
All right,
else, Mike?
that's it.
Okay. I have just a couple things. Had the opportunity to have lunch with the mayor and Baser and the council member the other day. When they feed me, I'll show up. So we sit down and had a talk, and one thing they're asking for is they'd like to have support of Leavenworth County to, on a particular driving, to lower the speed limit from 142nd to 171st Street. As I've done before on when they want letters, if it's all right with the commissioners, I'm going to, through Mark, I'm going to have Becky put this in your box, and we can talk about it next meeting. If everybody's okay with that. Just information. On the same issue, with the same letter, I had a long meeting with the Port Authority yesterday. I don't know if it was 2 hours. It was close. A lot of things to discuss. I shared them with Mark. But there was a gentleman there from the Leavenworth Water Works Department, and they're in serious trouble, or they need upgrades. Let's put it like that. Millions and millions. I think it's $40 or $50 million. They've also asked for a letter from the county commissioners of support that they can send to Honorable Jerry Moran and Marshall and Smith to show support on grants. And I don't see any problem why we wouldn't support them trying to go out for a grant. And I'll place this in your box too. Does anybody have any issues?
Who is it that's requesting?
Leavenworth Water.
Okay.
Leavenworth Water. Now, before you make the decision, I'm just going to have the copies made through Mark, put in your box, and if it's okay, we can chat about this next week. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes. While we are in D.C. with NACO, I think it'd probably be a good idea for us to bring this subject up to Senator Moran.
That'd be a good idea. You guys are going up there. Yeah, absolutely. Good point.
And also for the, I was contacted last night by some individuals who are on prosperity issue here in Kansas to go to one of their meetings to see if we can get some help through Leavenworth Fort. So
That's a good one too.
we'll see if we can. It's pushing a rope uphill.
Yeah.
Okay.
But at least you got a hold of the rope.
Hang on.
Don't let them shake it.
Yeah, we'll do all we can.
Okay. Thank God.
It's one other thing.
Go ahead.
To bring this up is the Baser State of the City address by the mayor is on Tuesday, March the 11th. and it starts at 11:30, and the presentation is at 12:30. I would encourage everyone to be there. There are some issues that will be coming up that we need to have an open forum on. So I'd like to see participation. I will be there.
I also, and I know Vanessa will be there.
Do we have it on our agenda?
We're getting ready to do that. I'm going to ask that through Mark that Becky reserve our spots down there. They haven't already been reserved. Mike, are you and Jeff interested? There'll be three of us, so we need to make sure we're an open meeting.
I'll try. I'll
Okay.
see.
Well,
We'll
make
have
sure
to
you
see how BNSF thinks.
Well, there's a charge to it, so make sure you let Becky know so she can get that information out to them. And I appreciate you bringing that up. I almost forgot anything. Anything else?
Nope, not for me.
Okay. Well, with that the case, we'll move on to consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Commissioner Reed?
Aye.
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 All righty. Moving on to formal board action. Rehearing of the proposed island annexation by the city of Tonga, Kansas, by resolution 224-01.
Okay, I'm going to read a letter from the city. Dear Commissioners, we represent the city of Tonganoxie, Kansas, and write to you on the city's behalf to formally request a continuance of the BOCC's rehearing of statutory annexation findings in connection with the city's resolution number 022401. The rehearing is currently scheduled for Wednesday, February 26, 2025. The City Council had a scheduled meeting on February 18, 2025, at which we had intended to discuss the pending BOCC rehearing, but the meeting was canceled due to inclement weather. The rescheduled meeting is Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. In order to provide time to confer with elected officials regarding the rehearing, the city respectfully requests the BOCC to continue its consideration of this matter to March 26, 2025. Unfortunately, we do not have a representative available to attend the BOCC meeting tomorrow, but we hope this letter request will suffice. Thank you for your time and consideration. Signed by their attorney. So
Is that your motion?
I would make a motion to schedule to
Table.
I would make a motion for a continuance of the hearing to be to March 26, 2025.
That's a Wednesday. Second. Okay, motion and second. Any discussion? Commissioner Reed?
No.
Aye.
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 Okay, passes. We'll let them know on that. Very good. Okay, item B, consider a motion to authorize the county councilor's office to process claims and expenditures on behalf of Fire District Number 1 in compliance with the county's procurement policy.
Commissioners, we have discussed, as the governing body is the governing body of Fire District Number 1, there are some funds that were transferred for Fire District Number 1 and also some bills as the Fire District 1 Board of Trustees wrapped up that need to be taken care of. I'm seeking authorization to pay these bills in accordance with the county procurement policy, which would require invoices, and then the check registry would come in front of the commission to approve it. I think at this moment we have approximately $9,905 in unpaid bills for Fire District 1 that need to be taken care of, and we have more than enough funds in the account for Fire District 1 to cover these expenses.
Mr. Chairman? Yep. I'd like to make a motion to authorize the county councilor's office to process claims and expenditures on behalf of Fire District Number 1 in compliance with the county's procurement policy.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none. Commissioner Reed?
Aye.
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 All righty. Okay, item C, consider a motion to approve the application for Y2026 Juvenile Comprehensive Plan. Come on down. Good morning.
Good morning. I almost thought you were calling me down to the Price is Right.
Come on, Grant.
Well,
We're
you might,
hoping-
you
we're
might
hoping.
think of it like that.
Which door do you want to go through?
There's no money involved here, though. Well, I guess maybe.
A little bit.
Well, good morning. Every year I come in front of you to ask for you to approve our juvenile comp plan and the other additional grants that we'll be requesting today. This year we're requesting the same allocation as in the past year, $530,000, $530,843.59. This just covers our staff and the services that we provide for juvenile probation and 24/7, 365 juvenile intake and assessment services.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the application for the fiscal year 2026 Juvenile Comprehensive Plan.
We have a motion and a second. This is every year. Or every so often we do this, and it's a grant, so we'll take any grants we can get. Is there any comments before we call the roll?
Well, just to let everyone know, we had a meeting the other day, and we thoroughly went through this document.
Yes, we did. Okay, I'll start the roll. Commissioner, sorry. I was reading something. I'm dating back or something like that. Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
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 Okay. I don't know what I was thinking. Okay, consider a motion to approve the application for Y fiscal year 2026 audit and comprehensive plan.
Yes, so
I'm
we're
struggling
also
with this.
requesting approval for our adult comp plan. And this year we are asking for $445,822.76, same as previous years. And this just covers our adult supervision.
So I do have a question. When did adult community corrections become a part of our county responsibilities? How many years ago was that? Was that in the late 60s or?
1979 was the year
79.
that we had the Community Corrections Act, and it was mandated that each county has to provide community corrections supervision. Up to the authority of the Board of County Commission, how you provide them, whether it's in your own county or forming a group of cooperating counties and everyone form an agency together, or if you contract out with another county to provide community correction services.
And can you tell folks what's the goal of community corrections?
Well, the real goal of community corrections is to keep people in the community and working on their issues that got them involved in criminal justice in the first place, and it is a alternative to prison sentencing that still has teeth, because ultimately if you can't prove to the court that you're doing the stuff that you need to be doing to make yourself a law-abiding citizen, you go to prison. And ultimately the goal of the overall Community Corrections Act is to reduce the number of new people committed to Kansas institutions, because we had very high growth in our prison, and the cost of facilities to build them and maintain them is astronomical. And on average, KDOC has a 50% turnover year after year, and our local facility is over 30% vacant, which creates significant staff and safety issues. So if we can keep people here on probation in the community, it's $5 a day, and they're working as they're required to. They're raising their children, and there's less social harm to our community.
Has there been evidence-based studies showing that it reduces recidivism?
Absolutely, especially long-term recidivism, to treat people in their communities. As everyone knows, when you take, just like kids, if you take kids out of a situation and you ground them for a week for something they did on the internet, and you just take away their tablet, they don't have their tablet. They're not getting on the internet doing the bad thing. But if you don't teach them how to do something different and you don't tell them why, prison is just a short-term Band-Aid. And there's actually a study that shows that every day someone's in prison, they're more likely to go back, because they're not actually working on education, they're not working on their mental health, if they are, when they come out, there's no one giving them their meds multiple times a day. Many people struggle with homelessness. When they come out, their families have moved on. Their family members may be dead. They don't have pro-social support. They have a wider range of criminals in their network, and they're more likely to be gang affiliated upon their release of prison. So if we can get them on the front end and have early intervention, it reduces a lot of back end costs to society, because it's $5 a day to keep someone on probation and keep them, getting drug tested and make sure they're working and paying their bills and paying child support. But when they're in prison, they're not contributing anything, and they're costing a minimum of $250 per day for a healthy inmate that's not receiving dialysis or cancer treatment or a special diet. Because obviously when people are institutionalized, they're still required to be receiving medical care, and we still feed them, and what do they really learn? So we try to teach them and make them very uncomfortable on probation, so they realize that they just need to get their stuff together and deal with and take accountability for their issues. Because there's lots of people in this country who didn't have a lot of opportunities for education. They're not committing crimes. There's lots of people that have mental health issues that aren't committing crimes. So if you take care of yours, then you shouldn't be committing crimes.
So we're likely saving the taxpayers multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right, and when you consider how many people who specifically live in this community that work in Lansing, the less people we're sending there, the safer their family members are that work in that prison. Because if we have prison overcrowding, that means there's more of them. They're more likely to have dangerous riots, which we've seen in the past. Lansing Correctional Facility is where I started my career and why I'm passionate about working in community corrections, because there's more of them than you, and people have riots. I mean, I think everyone has seen the aftermath of what happened in the old Max and after the last riots. These inmates took control of the whole facility. They become violent, and that just shows you that it's better to treat people in the community where they're going to live rather than take them out of that situation. Anybody can succeed in a structured environment when they don't have access to drugs and alcohol, and when they're medicated and most of their things are being taken care of. But
do we have any studies? I know that anecdotally it's stated that if you send a young person to prison, then they're just going to learn to be a better criminal when they come out, as opposed to giving them some out treatment. Do we have any studies or evidence-based things that tell us that that's true?
Absolutely. Early intervention is evidence-based. The earlier you can intervene and redirect someone away from the justice system and into treatment and into structured opportunities where they're getting like BOCC education and they have the ability to work and have a purpose, and they have pro-social influences, they're less likely to have criminogenic risks for reoffending.
So
Yeah, I saw it.
I just think people need to be educated about these things, because this is saving the taxpayers' money and saving people from becoming criminals. And this is a great program.
And sometimes they're so uncomfortable on probation, they'd rather go to prison. They're like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go to treatment.
Especially if you're overseeing them, right?
It is, there's no getting away from that. We can help people, but they have to want it. Ultimately,
Right.
Some of them still go to prison because they'd rather just keep using drugs. So,
Okay, one last question.
Oh, Jesus.
And I'd like to get this on the record. What percentage of both adult and juvenile does alcohol and drugs contribute to their being involved in the criminal justice system?
I haven't done that data on my juveniles, but I can tell you that year after year, I have over 90% of the people on probation in Leavenworth County are there for drug and alcohol related offenses. And even if it's not necessarily a possession or paraphernalia charge or a third or subsequent DUI, many of them were burglarizing and committing other offenses to support their drug habits. and alcohol and stimulants are the number one and number two substances used in violent and sexually motivated crime across the country.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can't remember if we had a motion on it since Mike struck this thing. Did we have a motion?
That was so long ago.
Yeah. I don't think we did. Did we? Okay. I need a motion.
Okay, I'll move that we approve the fiscal year 2026 application for the adult comprehensive plan.
Second.
Motion and second. Please, no more discussion. I'll start with Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
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 Okay. Consider a motion to approve the application for Y 2026-2027 JCAB grant.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the application for the fiscal year 2026-27 JCAB grant.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Start with Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
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 Aye. One thing before you get away. Since I was forced, volunteered to be chairman of the group,
Thank you very much for that decision.
I've noticed that the people that are appointed to these committees, there are some folks that aren't showing up. So at the next meeting, because y'all send out the letter to remind them, right, or the email, would you remind them that I brought it up, that I'd like to see them present on these meetings, and then I'll look at it and see who doesn't show up after that one. Then I may ask that we take some other action, because we barely had enough to have a meeting the other day. And I appreciate everybody that volunteers or gets appointed by another organization, but you need to be there to help us run this thing. That's all I have.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you, Jamie, for everything you do.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And
I'll
your,
be right
and,
back
your, and your staff.
for a quarterly report. I
And
will.
your staff.
And she could go on and on. I mean,
I know, that's what I'm afraid of. And you were leading her.
You can reach him with a gavel.
Not there.
I grabbed it twice.
Way over there.
That's the reason I put him there. Okay, number F, consider a motion to approve Board Order 2025 granting disaster relief tax abatement for tax IDs 128711 and 121058 and 2025 tax credit for tax ID 137570, which were substantially destroyed in fire in 2024.
Morning, Travis.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
As this is my first attempt at this, bear with me. So, 2025-1 is granting tax relief for the properties of 28711, 21058, and 37570. They were all substantially destroyed by fire within the calendar year of 2024. Two of these properties, well, KSA 79613 allows for you guys to grant these abatements from properties that were destroyed within 2024. They were destroyed prior to August 15th. It becomes a tax abatement. If they were destroyed after August 15th, it is considered a credit for the next year.
Right.
Two of the properties were prior to August 15th, and the third property, tax ID 1-3750, occurred October 15th, 2024. It would be a credit for 2025.
Simple enough.
and this is the same legislation that we got with the tornado relief,
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
which took 3 years, by the way.
But you stuck with it, Commissioner, so I'm glad to say that.
So maybe some of these other things will eventually happen. I'd like to make a motion to approve Board Order 2025-1 granting disaster relief tax abatement for tax IDs 1-28711, 1-21058, and 2025 tax credit for tax ID 1-37570, which were substantially destroyed by fire in 2024.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Mr. Reed?
Aye.
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 All righty. Thank you.
Travis.
Made it easy on you. Before we go to court,
I'm going to go right into that.
what? What's that?
He's next on quarterly.
Yeah, you're
No,
next.
wait,
Oh.
1 second, though, before we do that. I'm going to go back one. Commissioner Dove had something he wanted to bring up, reference that email. Did you want to
Yes.
chat to Mark about that?
Yes, I wanted to find out from Mark, this is a good time to bring up the appeal letter that was sent to us for property at 22617 155th Street. in Baser, from what I get, they had a SUP, and that SUP is not allowed to follow the new purchaser of that property.
Yes. So, Commissioner, there's a lot of history on SUPs. I'll try not to get too long-winded on that. But when the SUP was originally issued, it was for a 10-year period, I believe. After the original issuance, the board changed the policy to allow for SUPs to automatically renew unless there were complaints. But as part of that, because they are perpetual now, they felt like, at the time, the board felt like there needed to be a change to that policy, that when the business, and it is a business, it's not a house, it's a business that requires the SUP, that when they transferred ownership, that they needed to come in and reapply. I think we've had it multiple times probably since that changed. And in this case, the new owner, the proposed new owner, has started the process. They've made the application for a new SUP, and in fact are proposing a change, which would have had to come back for approval anyways, because any change has to be authorized by the board. So my understanding is that they are, the person who is under contract on that property is moving as fast as they can, and staff will also move as fast as we can. Obviously, it does require some notice because it is a zoning issue, but it's moving forward, and that's about all I have as far as a report on it.
Do we have Mark, do we have a timeline?
It depends on if they get all their application in on time, and we can get the notice put out, but it looks like April would probably be the timeline that it would be approved.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Okay, quarterly reports. Come on back down again.
All right. So this is the big report we do every year. This is the one that deals with the value change, and I'll try to work my way through it here. So the mandate of the County Appraiser's Office is to discover, list, and value all real estate in the county as of January 1st of every year.
It's okay, go ahead.
Currently, we have 32,861 parcels, which will have a valuation mailed out on February 28th, 2025. The statute is March 1st, but March 1st occurs on a Saturday this year, so we're going a day before. They have 30 days to appeal that valuation once they receive it in the mail, and the 30 days begins the date of the mailing, which was February 28th this year. Now, we did, as a buffer this year, file for an extension with the Property Valuation Division in Topeka. We did not utilize that extension because we managed to pull some long hours and get the job done and CVNs mailed out correctly on time. There's a list of parcel count class in the packet there. I don't know if you guys want me to go over that. Pretty standard jargon there. But when it comes to agricultural properties, we've seen minor changes within the ag part. Crop ground decreased an average of 1.5% per acre. Tame grass, pasture, things of that nature increased 5% per acre, and native grass values increased 2% per acre. These are figures that we look at 2024's value of crop ground, and we look at 2025's value, and that's how we determine those numbers there.
Question?
Yes, sir.
Is that how it's trending across the state as far as crop ground?
Yes, sir.
It's
It is decreasing in value because it's based on an 8-year average. So you go back several years where crop ground was extremely valuable during the drought season, 2018, 19, whenever that is. Those years are slowly falling off, being put on by years where the commodity is not worth as much. So it's based on an 8-year average is what it is. It tends to, instead of having sharp spikes up and down, it tends to make it smoother so the farmers don't get hit so hard 1 year.
Oh, theirs is actually decreasing.
Yes. With regards to personal property, Senate Bill 410 removed the annual requirement to file taxable personal property with the county appraiser. We no longer have to send out a rendition every year. And this will be the first year that we are not sending out a rendition. Normally, the renditions go out, taxpayers make any changes to those renditions, and they have to refile it back to us by March 15th. Currently, we are in the process of valuing the personal property and sending out strictly a valuation notice, and I believe we might include a letter stating that renditions are no longer required to be signed and returned to the office. It's been a pretty good year for sales and building permits. We are up this year 4% from the previous year, 2023. We had a total of 1,112 sales, single-family residence sales in the county this year, and the number of new single-family homes built increased by 23% from 23 to 24. One of the ways that the state grades us and makes sure that we are staying within compliance is what's called a sales ratio study. If you look at what a property sells for versus the value that we said it was worth, that is the sales ratio study. PVD guidelines are we have to be within value of 10% of that sale, so 90 to 110%. And when you look at the median ratios for Leavenworth County, the total county, we're at 91.8%. So we are on the bottom edge of compliance, meaning we are valuing properties less than what they are actually being sold for. Leavenworth City is 90.1, Lansing 90, Tonganoxie is 92, Basehor is a good one, 96.6%, and then the rural area we are actually running underneath that 90% compliance statute there. So that being said, I will get into the nuts and bolts of the report, which will be,
just one question.
Yes, sir.
I noticed on the average sale of new homes that the average dropped 2023 to 2024. You credit that to the interest rates?
Which part?
Next page.
That's where he was going.
So are you talking about the county as a whole?
Yes.
Oh.
The average sale price.
Well, the average sale price
took a little dip.
For new homes, there you go.
Yeah, it took a little dip.
So it depends on what is being built and sold at the time. Like Tonganoxie has a subdivision there just on that first stoplight there where they're building a smaller house on a slab, no basement. So you start throwing a bunch of those in there, it decreases the sale price, when you're looking at an average for new homes.
Okay.
And it depends on what they build in like Falcon Lakes. They are building some lower grade homes in Falcon Lakes on a couple of sections. Yes.
I didn't know that.
They're still
We didn't know
selling
that.
good, but-
Lower grade compared to what is already there. Not
Correct.
lower grade.
Yes, sorry about that.
I haven't seen the price going down on those houses,
Are you going to be moving, Mark?
if only.
Yeah, the average price of them combined did increase $10,000 roughly, and the number of homes built, 264, was an increase from last year as well. Leavenworth, about the same, about $13,000 increase in combined sale price. It once again showed a drop. Leavenworth does not have a lot of new construction when it comes to homes. About the only one in business is the branches right now. Lansing had an increase, significant $17,000 increase in combined sale price. Now Tonganoxie, that goes back to where they are building the smaller homes, more starter home packages, so that is driving that overall sale price down. And then Basehor was pretty stagnant, which is indicated by us being at 96.6% of ratio on that one. The rural one is a big one. We have surpassed $500,000. We are at $514,466 in sale price of combined existing and new homes. What is of note is the fact that new homes are now selling for $686,000 on average in the county. Linwood and Easton, those are very difficult markets because they're not very homogeneous when it comes to houses. You have a mix of old, a mix of new. Very difficult to nail that down, but it showed a significant increase in that one as well. Last page of your packet will be the appraised value changes. For 2025, we are approaching $1.1 billion in total assessed value of the county. That is an increase of $60,000 in assessed value from the previous year. Total percent change is 5.84% this year. New construction attributes 1.5% to that value, and the reval, which is simply homes that are existing that had no new construction existing, was 4.34%. Residential by itself was 5.36% with new construction of 1.41% and a reval of 3.95%. Commercial was significant this year. Commercial properties are being valued very well this year. Total percent change was 11.14%. New construction 1.95. Revaluation was 9.19. We further drilled on down to.
Hey, Travis, can we just stop 1 second on
Yes,
that
sir.
area? I just wanted to point out, in case people are trying to follow along, the residential, where it says the revaluation is 3.95%. That's what the people who already own their homes, on average in the county, if you didn't do any new additions to your home, you'll see around a 3.95% increase in valuation on average.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, some people are going to be more than that, some people will go down. But I think that's the important one, that's what generates probably most of the phone calls.
Yes. I should be more specific on that. Anyway, we did drill further down into local jurisdictions. I can go through those if you want me to, or if you guys have questions about them.
Well, I just ran through the calculator, the valuation change since 2019, and it looks like it's about 48.5.
Significant change.
That's a lot for the taxpayer.
Yeah, you had 2 years in there that were double-digit increases.
22, 23, and 21.
So when we're asking the legislature to put a cap, it makes sense.
It does. It would have its benefits.
Florida has it. 26 other states have it. So anyway, we can't convince them yet.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Jamie, since half of your report is from questions that Commissioner Stephen already asked, you do not have to repeat everything again if you don't want to, okay?
All right.
Don't worry, she's got a lot in there.
Yes, but it's better for meetings and everyone else's time if it's an email. Did everyone get a chance to read my quarterly report?
Yep.
The one thing on here that has changed pretty significantly since the second quarter, and we're about to be in March, we actually have double the amount of juveniles on supervision than we did when I got here 4.5 years ago. So that number has jumped over 30 now, where when I got here we only had 15 youth at any time. For the adults, we still are pretty much at between 130 and 150 at any given time. We served 42 youth for juvenile intake last quarter, closed out 23 adult cases, 5 youth cases, and more were successful than unsuccessful. We're doing really well with no turnover, knock on wood.
Let's say that, yeah.
Obviously got our grant apps in. They moved that whole process up by a quarter. Something that we did discuss yesterday at the adult meeting, KDOC is looking at changing the funding formula to something equitable and transparent that's based on data. And in the original 16 formulas that were proposed, and based on the amount of individuals on probation, the area that this county covers, the population of this county, turnover, and our success rate, we were going to gain over 6 figures in funding in all 16 of those, no matter how the variables were weighted, which I think goes back to justify, Mark and I have discussed multiple occasions, the disproportionate funding Leavenworth has received, not just while I've been here, but for decades. And
Disproportionately low.
we are disproportionately underfunded.
Yeah.
At one point, we were getting about $4 per day per offender on probation, and other counties who are even smaller than us, we're getting $25 per person on probation, and we all have the same goal, but if we don't have the same resources and the same, amount of probation officers and manageable caseloads, obviously our outcomes aren't going to be as great. So I feel like that has really validated our concerns that Leavenworth was receiving less funding than everybody else. And now in the most recent one, considering all of the previous variables as well as crime index and poverty rates, we're set to receive over $280,000 if that one passes. So that will be significant for my department and would benefit us with multiple additional probation officers, which are needed. But
Will that be decided by the end of the session?
that should, technically it's up to KDOC because the pot of money that comes to us comes from KDOC. The pot of funding wouldn't change. It's just how they allocate it.
Yeah. Makes sense. We've talked about it for years.
And you talked about funding, but also our caseload is much higher than neighboring communities because of that lack of funding.
Yep.
And it's actually gone down. There are some people who, I'm not sure if it's because of their jury pool or the person who's their prosecutor or their judges. Here in Leavenworth, the people on probation are supposed to be on probation. We're not getting people departed that would otherwise be in prison because of plea deals and other stuff that's going on. I don't have departures. People who, based on the sentencing grid, would go to prison and then they're pled down. That doesn't happen here in Leavenworth. The people on probation are supposed to be here based on their criminal history and their current risk to this community. And you see other agencies across the state where more than half of the people on probation are people who are there because they've been pled to probation instead of going to prison because people didn't want to take it to trial. That's not happening here. But, God forbid someone else was our prosecutor or we had changes in judges. Our probation population, if going up by 48%, that would be a crisis for my department. So we need all the probation officers and funding we can get from BOC now and for the future.
Agree with that.
So we talked about the Oxford houses, kind of transitional.
Yes.
Is there still a need for that?
Yes, and actually since our sequential intercept mapping workshop where we identified with 55 stakeholders that this was one of our top 3 priorities was additional housing and transitional housing and sober living options specifically, I spoke to one of the members of our housing group from that workshop, and he has met with 3 different nonprofit groups who are interested in expanding their models into Leavenworth County. One of them is a faith-based organization that has a transitional housing model surrounded by faith that addresses addiction component. One of them is the Oxford House, which would be overseen by the Friends of Recovery Association of Kansas. And then another model that works really well for veterans that are justice involved. And so we're looking forward to having those group meetings with all of the parties involved in serving this community and creating those opportunities for individuals to get away from the environments and the playmates that they're using drugs with, because they can't get clean and sober if the environment that they're living in is still using drugs and bringing them around. If you sit in a barber shop long enough, you're going to get a haircut. And that's what happens to people who are trying to beat addiction. If they can't get away from that, they're never going to be successful and live a life of recovery.
You sit in a barbershop long enough. What you say is absolutely fact. Saw it too many times in my law enforcement career.
So.
Okay.
Awesome. Once again, thank you.
Does anybody besides Commissioner Stephen have a question?
I think we covered everything.
Okay, okay, thank you. Okay, I think we need an executive session.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board recess for a closed executive meeting to consult with our attorneys and discuss confidential matters related to potential claims and litigation, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship as justified by KSA 754319B. and that the board resume open meeting at what time?
10:30.
At 10:30 in the meeting room of the board. Present in the executive session will be Commissioners Mike Smith, Jeff Culberson, Vanessa Reed, Willie Dove, Mike Steben, County Administrator Mark Lawfrey, County Councilor Misty Brown, and Deputy County Councilor John Khalil.
Second. And then I'll start calling roll. Commissioner Reed?
Aye.
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 All right.
Let the record reflect the board has returned from regular session at 10:30 a.m. No action was taken, no decisions were made. The subject was limited to the legal interests of the county.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, we're down to just any of the commissioners have anything? I don't think Commissioner Reed is with us. She's not going to. Culberson, you have anything?
No, other than I'll be going to that hearing tomorrow morning in Topeka.
Yeah. What?
We went to the Mark meeting yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Another meeting that could have been a memo.
There wasn't much to it. Went to the CADA meeting to tour their facility and get an update on their budget, and I'm going to a meeting at noon. And then Commissioner Dove and I are flying on an airplane.
Well, that'd be good. You're going to fly.
Yeah, if you're going to fly, it's best to do it on there.
You want me to get Jamie back in there? And go, go.
That's it.
Okay.
It's not that song that calls when doves fly.
Prince. I know that song. Okay, I think we've already talked some things. I had a meeting with the mayor and Baser. Port Authority was an interesting meeting. I think it was an hour and 45 minutes.
And you talked the whole time?
A lot of it, yeah.
You heard it right here, folks.
Yeah, and of course that we had the juvenile advisory board meeting, which I was impressed with what they're doing down there. And that's all I have. Mr. Dove, you have anything?
Where are we with the funding?
Right now, we're on hold. Mark, you want to jump in on this?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the
Funding from LCDC.
Oh, funding for LCDC. Yeah. So the last board meeting, the board instructed me to not distribute funds to the Port Authority. That's who we pass the funds to until after our work session. Our work session is on the 12th.
March 12th. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Anything else, sir?
That's it for me.
I move that we adjourn.
Second. Commissioner Culberson?
Aye.
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 All right. Good meeting, folks.